All right. Well, the White House forced to react to one scandal after another through the course of this spring, right? So why the first Homeland Security Secretary just moments ago here in America's Newsroom said that he believes that this administration cannot be trusted.
Also, Martha, there are new questions about Benghazi. Senator Ron Johnson asking the Joint Chiefs Chairman why there was not more security in the first place. The answer he received now 9 months since that deadly day.
Well, there are some new questions today about how the White House is doing managing the series of scandals that are before them. Fox News contributor Charles Krauthammer suggested that the president, in his mind, is out of the loop.
Where's the president? Here's a president who triples the number of troops in Afghanistan and doesn't speak about it for a couple of years and is shocked that the country loses interest in the war and he has to, in the end, withdraw. He did the same on a whole host of other issues where he simply initiates, like in Libya, and then he doesn't lead. On this issue, if it is as important as he says, he should be the one out there making at least one speech.
So according to Fox News polls that just came out, voters were asked which scandal Congress should investigate. Take a look at these numbers. A majority of people chose the IRS, targeting conservative groups. 78% said yes, continue the investigation into this issue. 76% say yes, keep going with the DOJ story and the surveillance of journalists. Benghazi, 73% say yes, they do not want that issue to die. They want Congress to continue to investigate it. So that's what the White House is dealing with right now. Let's bring in Chris Wallace, anchor of Fox News Sunday. Good morning, Chris.
Good morning to you, Martha.
You know, you have to believe that the West Wing looks at those numbers and says we need to decide how we're going to respond to this. Charles says that a speech is in order, something public where the president comes out, but there isn't any sign so far that that's going to happen.
Yeah, I think Charles was speaking specifically about the National Security Agency surveillance program, and I certainly agree with him there. I mean, the president says he welcomes a debate on this. We've seen a lot of people very upset at the idea that the NSA is vacuuming up all this information, every phone call that every law-abiding American makes, not the content of the call, but the fact of the call. One number calling another number, all of that stuff. And I think that, you know, if the president wants a debate, and there's a lot of debate going on in Congress, and I know just around people's dinner tables, shouldn't the president make the case for this NSA program? In terms of the real scandals we're talking about here, not necessarily the White House, but the administration had a very bad day yesterday. I'm sure you've played the clip of Representative Jim Jordan questioning the head of the FBI, Robert Mueller, and the fact that he couldn't name who the head of the investigation was or what they were doing. You know, one can argue in a bureaucratic sense, maybe he wouldn't know the name of the specific guy running that investigation. But in a PR sense, he was very ill-served that somebody didn't say to him, hey, you're going to get asked about this and you better have an answer.
I mean, that's my question, Chris. I mean, when you're briefing the FBI director and he's walking into this situation and there's all this going on, you would think that somebody would say to him, look, these guys are going to come at you with, you know, guns blazing on this IRS issue. So we need to get together what our answer is going to be on this. Very surprising, and very surprising, I might point out also, to Rudy Giuliani, who said that when he was in the Justice Department, he said everybody knew. We all talked 20 times a day when there was something this hot.
Well, I mean, the point is that people want a sense, first of all, that the White House wasn't involved, that this wasn't ordered from the administration, and obviously there are a lot of suspicions about that. They also want a sense that there is an independent, thorough, aggressive investigation going on, and the FBI director certainly did not give that sense yesterday in that hearing by his clear failure to know anything about the investigation.
Yeah, I mean, the president has said this is not right. We will get to the bottom of this. He, you know, acts like it's a big priority. So it's very odd, to say the least, to have Robert Mueller not a little bit more aware of what's going on, at least, you know, able to put out some answers that seems like that they made sense on that one. Let's listen to Tom Ridge, who was on with us a moment ago. I want to get your thoughts on this. Go ahead.
Over the past several months, this administration has demonstrated in so many areas with Benghazi, Department of Justice, and the IRS that they're not to be trusted, that there are information gaps. And I think, as General Alexander and General Hayden have said, this is a program began under President Bush when we weren't prepared and should never be prepared to sacrifice any constitutional protection for security. It's been expanded. So I think the real challenge here, in my judgment, is a little bit more transparency to the extent they're able to provide it for us.
Yeah, that's the question. Does the administration come forward and say, we're going to give you some specific examples of how this program works in order to reassure the American people?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a legitimate distinction between the NSA programs, which were, after all, approved by Congress, oversight by Congress. The courts weigh in on this. So you have to go to a judge to get a court order to do this kind of surveillance. There's a difference between that and the clear scandals that went on in the case of the targeting of the IRS or Benghazi or the targeting of James Rosen and other reporters. I think there's a difference between the two. But if you're going to make that case, I agree that the administration, this gets us back to our original point, that needs to make the case, here's why this NSA program is right, here's how it protects us, and here's why it doesn't endanger individual freedoms. Now, the problem, of course, exactly as Governor Ridge said, people aren't necessarily going to trust this administration right now when they see the scandals. But there is a difference between what's going on in the NSA, which has been approved by every branch of government, and what's going on in these scandals.
I would agree. And you've got that difference played out in equal parts on both sides of the Republican and Democratic spectrum and how people feel about it. Chris, we got to leave it there, but we are going to be watching you on Sunday because I know you've got a great guest on. Thank you so much for being with us. And there is former Vice President Dick Cheney, an exclusive interview with Chris Wallace.